Gum Gurupyo Namah. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 14, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, a unified path to transcend the three modes of nature. 9th Shloka. Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Raja Karmani Bharata Jnanamavrityatu Tamaha Pramade Sanjayatyuta. Shloka translation. O Bharata, the Sattva Guna leads to happiness, the Rajas Guna leads to karmic action, and the Tamas Guna, which obscures wisdom, leads to delusion. Commentary. If we consider three types of weather, which are sunny and warm weather, which can be considered as Sattva Guna, as well as the windy and energetic weather, which can be considered as Rajas Guna, and the foggy and dark weather, which can be considered as Tamas Guna. Sunny weather makes you feel happy and content. Windy weather makes you feel restless and want to move. Foggy weather makes you feel confused and disoriented. Similarly, Sattva creates a sense of pleasure, Rajas creates a drive for action, and Tamas creates a state of delusion. This shloka provides a clear and concise summary of the primary effects of each of the three gunas. It highlights how they influence our experiences and actions, leading to pleasure, action, or delusion. Many of us mistakenly interpret the three gunas or the qualities of nature, which is sattva, rajas, and tamas, with the four varnas or the social classes. This has caused significant problems in the human society. However, it is important to understand that the Gita uses the gunas to guide us in human psychology, career choices, analyze philosophies, and improve spiritual practice, not to justify social hierarchy. We must avoid the common error of using the gunas to support a rigid caste system. The gunas don't divide people into distinct races or species. Think of it like a color spectrum. Everyone has all colors, but some are more dominant at different times. Just as a person can be calm one moment and energetic the next, the gunas shift within each individual. Even Arjuna, being a warrior, only needed to fight during specific times. His Kshatriya or warrior nature wasn't constant. Tamas Guna is like a still pond, representing inertia. Rajas Guna is like a rushing river, representing activities, and Sattva Guna is like a clear, still mountain lake, representing clarity. They show up as dullness, alertness, and wisdom, or laziness, excitement, and contemplation. The Gita uses these gunas to categorize everything from harmony to philosophical understanding, but these qualities only affect our lower selves. Imagine the gunas as dials on a control panel. They are constantly changing, not fixed. They help us understand spiritual life, but we must use them wisely, not to create divisions. Just as a tool can be used for good or bad, the gunas can be used to understand our nature or to create unjust social structures. The Gita asks us to go beyond these gunas, not to cling to them. Even the best guna, sattva, can bind us if we are attached to it. True spirituality is about freedom, not just being good. Even a holy person with ego is still trapped. The gunas belong to the changing world, not the true self. They are like the different lenses we can look through, but we must remember they are not the reality itself. Shloka 10. Rajas tamascha bibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata Raja sattvam tamaschaiva tama sattvam rajastata. Shloka translation. O Bharata, sometimes sattva dominates over the qualities of rajas and tamas, and rajas predominates over the quality of sattva and tamas. Likewise, tamas dominates over the quality of sattva and rajas. Commentary. Just as three wrestlers constantly grapple with each other, sometimes one wrestler gains the upper hand and throws the other two to the ground, but then another wrestler rises and throws the others. This constant struggle represents the dynamic interplay of the gunas. No single guna remains dominant forever. They constantly shift and change. This confirms the dynamic and ever-changing nature of the gunas. They are not static qualities but are constantly interacting and influencing each other, which means that no state of mind, whether sattvic, rajasic or tamasic, is permanent. All the experiences that we go through as a result of these gunas do not stay the same forever. And it is important to transcend the influence of the gunas altogether. It is not by clinging to sattva guna that we will be able to overcome the gunas, but through the understanding of the reality of these gunas and analyzing them within the situations we go through in our day-to-day life that we will be able to transcend all three. Shloka 11. Sarvadwareshu dehe asmin prakashopajayate jnanam yada tada vidyat vivriddham sattvamityuta. Shloka translation. When the light, which is wisdom, manifests from all the gates of the body, it can be understood that the sattva guna is predominant. Commentary. When the sun shines brightly in a room with many windows, light streams through all the windows, illuminating the entire room. This light represents sattva quality, and the windows represent the sense organs. When sattva is dominant, clarity and understanding pervade all aspects of experience, just as sunlight fills the room. This verse provides a practical way to recognize the dominance of sattva. It emphasizes that when the senses and mind are clear and filled with wisdom, it indicates that sattva is prevailing. It is the light of wisdom that allows us to see past the illusions of the material world. There are two aspects of the Supreme. The unchanging aspect, like the spirit soul itself, and the changing aspect, which is the world we experience. Sattva is a part of this changing aspect, which is a way the Absolute manifests in the world. Sattva guna is the purest quality of the nature, like a shadowless light shining on itself. It reflects the true self, the spirit, without distortion. Sattva guna is like a perfect reflection of the Absolute's qualities like existence, consciousness, and peace. It is so close to the spirit that it's easy to mistake the reflection for the real thing. This is where the confusion starts within us. Shloka 12. Lobha pravritti arambha karmana masamaspраha rajasetani jayante vivritte bharatarshava. Shloka translation. O greatest of the Bharatas, when the Rajas guna dominates, greed, activity, the initiation of actions, restlessness and covetousness arise. Commentary. In a busy marketplace, there is constant activity, noise and excitement. People are buying and selling, rushing from one stall to another. This bustling atmosphere represents Rajas. There is a sense of urgency, desire and competition. Similarly, when Rajas dominates, there is a flurry of activity driven by greed and desire. This verse shows a practical way to recognize the dominance of Rajas. It emphasizes that when greed, activity, impatience and covetousness are evident, it indicates that Rajas is prevailing. This does not mean that activity is bad, but activity driven by greed and impatience leads to bondage. Rajas guna disrupt the pure image of the soul that is mirrored by Sattva guna. Shloka 13. Aprakasho pravrittischa pramado moha evacha tamasyetani jayante vivritte kurunandana. Shloka translation. O Kurunandana, when the quality of tamas guna dominates, there arises apathy, lack of initiative, infatuation and delusion. Commentary. When a room with thick, heavy curtains drawn becomes dark, still and silent, There is a sense of heaviness, inertia, and lack of clarity. Similarly, when tamas dominates, there is a sense of dullness, lack of motivation, and confusion. This verse provides a practical way to recognize the dominance of tamas guna. It emphasizes that when dullness, lack of initiative, delusion, and infatuation are evident, it indicates that tamas is prevailing. This understanding is crucial for recognizing the nature of our ignorance and the need to cultivate awareness. It doesn't mean that resting is inherently bad, but that excessive rest and lack of awareness leads to stagnation. Shloka 14 to 15. Yada sattve pravrittetu pralayam yati dehabrit tadottama vidam lokan amalan pratipadyate rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangishu jayate tata praleenastamasi mudayonishu jayate. Shloka translation. If the embodied goes to dissolution when the sattva guna is predominant, then he attains to the pure worlds of those who have realized noble values. If the embodied one goes to dissolution when the rajas guna is predominant, he is born among those attached to karmic action. Similarly, if the embodied one goes to dissolution when the tamas guna is predominant, he is born in the wombs of the fools. Commentary. These verses describe the karmic consequences of dying while under the influence of each of the three gunas. They outline the destinations of the soul based on the dominant quality at the time of death. We think that once we get a human birth, we never decrease to a state of a lower birth. But it doesn't happen that way. Births happen based on the qualities we keep getting attached to in each birth. Consider, for example, a mother in this human life, deeply devoted to expressing love for her children. This passionate devotion, though seemingly noble, cultivates a specific guna within her, irrespective of her life stage. However, it does not ensure that her subsequent lives will invariably be in human forms. The cumulative effect of the gunas cultivated throughout lifetimes may lead to a future birth as an animal, either as a mother or child, to fulfill the need for expressing or receiving love between parent and offspring. The very quality of maternal love, so deeply ingrained, could manifest even in a non-human existence. One should destroy the gunas that have been developed throughout the lifetimes in order to liberate from the cycle of birth and death. These verses are a reminder that our actions and thoughts have consequences that extend beyond this lifetime. Shloka 16. Karmana sukritasyahuhu satvikam nirmalam phalam rajasastu phalam dukkam ajnanam tamasak phalam. Shloka translation. The result of good action is said to be sattvic and pure. The result of rajasic guna is suffering, and the result of tamasic guna is ignorance. Commentary. This shloka explains the direct correlation between the gunas and their corresponding outcomes. It emphasizes that actions performed with sattva guna lead to positive, clear, and pure results, while actions performed with rajas guna lead to pain and suffering, and actions performed with tamas guna lead to ignorance and delusion. Our actions have consequences. We have the power to choose the type of consequence we experience. It is important to note that the quality of the action dictates the quality of the result. Shloka 17. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso lobha evacha pramadamo tamaso bhavato ajnanam evacha. Shloka translation. From sattva guna arises wisdom, and also from rajas guna arises greed. Both delusion, infatuation, and ignorance arise from tamas guna. Commentary. This shloka explains the specific qualities that arise from each of the three gunas. Sattva leads to clarity of understanding, insight, and discernment. Rajas leads to desire, attachment, and covetousness. Tamas leads to confusion, misperception, and lack of understanding. Shloka 18. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasaha jaganyag gunavrittistha adho gachanti tamasaha. Shloka translation. Those who are situated in the Sattva Guna move upwards. Those who are situated in the Rajas Guna dwell in the middle. And those who are situated in the activity of lower modes of nature in the Tamas Guna move downwards. Commentary. This shloka paints a picture of existential movement based on the qualities that govern one's actions and thoughts. The upward movement of Sattva Guna represents a progression towards higher states of consciousness. The middle state of Rajas reflects a life driven by desires and attachments, leading to a cycle of action and reaction. It is a state of perpetual motion, often driven by external forces. The downward movement of Tamas implies a movement towards lower realms of existence characterized by suffering and lack of awareness. Shloka 19. Nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada drashtanupashyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam so adhigacchati. Shloka translation. When the seer beholds no other agent than the gunas and knows that which lies beyond the gunas, he attains to my state of being. Commentary. When the puppets are moving and acting out a story, an ordinary person might think that the puppets are acting on their own. However, a wise person understands that the puppets are being controlled by the puppeteer. The wise person also understands that the puppeteer is separate from the puppets and is not affected by their actions. Similarly, the seer understands that the gunas are the ones performing actions and the self is the witness, transcendent to the gunas. Shloka 20. Gunanetana trin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkair vimukto amritam ashnute. Shloka translation. The embodied one, having transcended these three gunas arising in the body, attains liberation from the sufferings of birth, death, and old age and enjoys immortality. Commentary. Liberation from the cycle of birth and death comes from transcending the influence of the gunas. The gunas are the root cause of suffering, and by going beyond them, one attains immortality. It is not about controlling the gunas but moving beyond them. It is not about escaping suffering but escaping the root cause of suffering by understanding the reality. It is about realizing the eternal nature of the self. If the wisdom shared in this channel has been helpful, please subscribe and support the spread of eternal Dharma. These verses are in Sanskrit, and there are limitations in the language we are attempting to translate them into. Therefore, the translation may not be perfectly accurate in every instance. To gain a deeper understanding of any content that's being posted on this channel, you should present your questions to Guru and you will receive answers for them. This is the path of spiritual practice for our journey towards the Supreme. You can submit your questions by commenting below or by contacting us via this phone number +94 74280 7193. May the blessings of Guru be upon you all. Gum Gurupyo